There is a silence that no one notices. That moment when you stare into nothingness, but inside you're holding the whole world. I know you try to appear strong, but something inside you is tired, and nobody sees it. You learn to hide what you feel, not because you want to, but because feeling it hurt too much one day. And now you live with this lump in your throat, pretending that nothing affects you. But the truth is that every letting go has a story, and nobody leaves without a reason. Perhaps you too have learned not to expect anything from anyone, so as not to get hurt again. And that says a lot about what you carry within you, much more than you admit. There's a kind of pain that doesn't explode outwardly, but hides inside. It's emotional detachment, that feeling of shutting down your heart before someone can hurt it again. Many people live like this and don't even realize it has a name. They just say they don't feel anything anymore, when in reality they feel everything at once. It's as if they've learned to survive by erasing parts of themselves. And nobody says it out loud because they don't know how to explain it. They can't find the words, they just feel the weight. Maybe you know this silence well. Maybe you too have distanced yourself unintentionally. And deep down, you just wanted to understand why it's so hard to allow yourself to feel again. The truth is that emotional detachment doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's built in layers like walls erected brick by brick, always after some old wound. Many call it coldness, but it's not. It's protection. It's exhaustion. It's fear of surrendering and being hurt again. And when someone asks why you're like this, you don't even know how to answer. How do you explain that your heart closes itself after so many falls? How do you say that trusting has become too high a risk? How do you admit that you still feel, you just don't know how to show it anymore? It's this dilemma that traps so many people between wanting to love and not being able to get close. Sometimes you even try to connect, but something blocks you. It's as if there's an invisible barrier between you and the world, and it hurts, even if no one notices. You miss affection, but you distance yourself. You miss presence, but you hide. You miss love, but you can't open the door. And everything becomes a silent cycle that no one understands, not even you. Because while the body moves forward, the soul remains stuck behind, trying to protect itself from what has already passed. It's a conflict that almost no one talks about, but that weighs heavily on the chest of many people who seem indifferent on the outside. Perhaps you've already noticed that something has changed within you. Before, any gesture touched your heart. Now, almost nothing moves you. Before, you trusted people more. Today, you keep the necessary distance to avoid getting hurt. Before, you craved intensity. Now you only want peace, and this is confusing. Because you don't know if you've evolved or if you've lost your way. And when someone asks you, "Why are you so distant?" you remain silent. Because it's not distance, it's fear. It's emotional survival. And few can understand that. Many people try to hide this emptiness with phrases like, "I prefer to be alone. I'm just like that. I don't need anyone." But deep down, it's just a way to deflect the pain. A way to avoid admitting that the heart is tired of broken hopes. Psychology calls this an emotional protection mechanism, but those who feel it call it exhaustion. And this exhaustion weighs heavily, even if you don't let it fall. It suffocates. It hardens. It makes you believe that feeling too much is a mistake. And then, little by little, you begin to feel too little. And perhaps the hardest point to admit is this. You didn't distance yourself because you stopped feeling. You distanced yourself because you felt too much and couldn't bear the suffering anymore. It hurts in a way you can't explain, but you know how to recognize. Because emotional detachment isn't coldness. It's the scar of someone who has cried alone for too long. It's the mark of someone who has trusted and been betrayed. It's the defense of someone who is tired of giving their heart and receiving it back in pieces. And that's why, today, you shield yourself. You remain silent. You hide. But deep down, you still feel it. Emotional detachment often arises in moments when no one noticed. It emerges long ago, when you were striving to be accepted, loved, or understood, and yet you were still left aside. The mind learns too quickly to avoid what hurts. And when you realize it, you're carrying the habit of distancing yourself before getting hurt. This comes from a simple logic. If I don't connect, I don't suffer. It's a defense mechanism that your own mind created to protect you. But over time, this protection becomes a prison, and the person begins to believe that feeling is too dangerous. Childhood plays a huge role in this. When you grow up hearing criticism, feeling a lack of affection, experiencing small or large rejections, your heart learns to shrink in order to survive. It doesn't have to have been a gigantic trauma. Sometimes it was just absence, lack of hugs, lack of affection, lack of someone who saw you. And when a child doesn't receive emotional security, the adult becomes someone who fears vulnerability, not because they are weak, but because they were never taught to be accepted. This is how the habit of not asking for help, of not showing pain, of not trusting people is born. Another profound element is accumulated insecurity. Emotionally detached people aren't cold by choice. They simply carry so many internal ruptures that they've learned to protect themselves by closing doors. It's as if the heart says, "Don't risk it. You already know how this ends." And with this repeated thought, the person creates an automatic distance. Even before feeling anything, they're already distancing themselves. Even before liking someone, they're already blocking them. Even before allowing themselves to feel, they're already creating excuses not to feel. It's a pattern that seems rational, but it stems from emotional pain. Expectations also shape this behavior. If, in the past, you expected too much from someone and were hurt by it, your brain learns to lower expectations to avoid suffering. However, in this process, you also reduce your capacity for engagement. It's like installing an emotional filter that prevents you from living fully. Detachment, then, is not coldness. It's prevention. A prevention that protects, yes, but also prevents you from experiencing what you truly desire. You remain there in the middle of the road, between the desire to feel and the fear of allowing yourself to feel. Repeated patterns are the most dangerous. When you spend years defending yourself emotionally, it becomes your identity. You start to believe you were born this way, that you don't love, that you don't feel, that you don't care. But that's not true. It's just an emotional habit reinforced by painful experiences. And every repeated habit seems like part of your personality. But deep down, it's just an old way of surviving. The mind repeats what once worked to avoid pain, even if it limits you today. That's why so many adults carry childhood wounds disguised as indifference. And the final manifestation of this pattern is silent. You start living on autopilot, without surrendering, without creating deep bonds, without truly connecting. But not because you don't want to, but because you've learned to protect yourself too much. Emotional detachment then becomes a heavy armor. It keeps you standing, but also keeps you distant. It saves you from some pain, but steals some joy. And that's why so many people today feel empty even when surrounded by people. It's a protection that has become exaggerated, an instinct that has gone too far. And now you're trying to understand how to go back, to feel without fear. Imagine a woman sitting on the edge of her bed, clutching her chest as if trying to stop her heart from escaping. She looks at her phone, sees a loving message, but something inside her recoils. Not because she doesn't want to feel, but because she's learned to expect pain before love. She deletes the notification as if erasing a chance, and she stays there, motionless, trying to convince herself that it's better this way. Inside, she seems strong, but she's exhausted. And when someone asks how she feels, she just smiles and changes the subject. Because her pain doesn't have a simple name. She simply learned to survive by shutting down her heart. There is also a man walking alone down an empty street at the end of the afternoon. The wind hits his face, but he feels nothing. He has grown accustomed to this emotional numbness. He thinks of the people he tried to love and, without realizing it, also thinks of the times he was discarded, ignored, or criticized. Each memory becomes a wall. He walks slowly, as if carrying a suitcase full of stories he never told. And even wanting to open up, his body reacts first. It closes, protects itself, withdraws. He lives as if observing life from afar. There's even the silent scene of someone receiving an unexpected hug and freezing. They don't reciprocate, you don't know why. Not because they don't like it, but because the gesture touches an old wound. The hug should warm them, but it frightens them. It seems that upon being touched, everything they tried to hide comes to the surface. And this person, so used to controlling everything, feels threatened with losing their own armor. Their heart races not with love but with fear, and the person pulls away before anyone realizes the truth. They wanted that hug more than they can admit. Now imagine someone sitting by the window looking out, wondering what it would be like to feel without fear. She imagines a life where love wasn't a threat, but a safe haven. But soon the thought shifts because her mind has learned to predict the worst. It's not worth it, she tells herself. The sad thing is that she doesn't even realize that this thought is no longer rational. It's automatic. It's the echo of old pains. It's the wounded child inside her saying, "Be careful." And so she continues living between desire and fear, between the will to surrender and the need to protect herself. In another scene, someone is in a cafe laughing with friends, seeming carefree. But inside they're disconnected, watching their own life from the outside, making jokes, playing roles, appearing fine. And no one imagines that, when this person lies down at night, they feel an emptiness they can't even explain. An emptiness that isn't a lack of people. It's a lack of emotional security. It's that feeling of not being able to open up to anyone because there's always the shadow that something will go wrong. And that shadow has become a constant companion. And then there's that story no one sees, the story of those who love in silence, who feel deeply but don't show it, who long to get closer but hide, who observe the world carefully, always weighing emotional risks. This person isn't cold. They're just afraid of not being enough, afraid of being abandoned again, afraid of giving everything they have and seeing it all crumble. And so they live, keeping the best of themselves, waiting for a safe moment that never comes. Because emotional detachment doesn't kill love. It just paralyzes him. What no one realizes is that people with emotional detachment aren't empty. They're overwhelmed. They carry too many thoughts, too many memories, too many fears. Their silence isn't peace. It's effort. Effort not to collapse. Effort not to feel everything at once. They control themselves so much that on the outside they seem stable, but inside they fight battles that no one sees. When someone says they're cold, they just smile, because they don't know how to explain the chaos they face alone. No one sees the emotional exhaustion that slowly consumes them. No one imagines how much they hold back. What no one realizes is that these people love intensely, but silently. Their love is shy, restrained, confused. They analyze every gesture, every word, every detail. They are afraid of making mistakes, of giving too much of themselves, of losing control. So they love from afar. They love quietly. They love without allowing themselves to show it. And because of that, they seem distant. But in truth, they feel everything deeply. They just don't know how to express it without touching the wound that is still bleeding. And so, they guard their affection, like someone guarding something too precious to be exposed. The hidden side of emotional detachment is guilt. The person withdraws to protect themselves, but then blames themselves for having withdrawn. They don't want to be indifferent, but they don't know how to be different. They criticize themselves. They question themselves. They judge themselves. And this internal judgment is so heavy that it hurts even more. They think, why am I like this? Why can't I feel like I used to? These questions echo in the back of their mind, creating a cycle of silent pain. While outsiders think they simply don't care, they struggle to understand exactly what they are trying to hide. Another thing many people don't realize is how observant these individuals are. They pick up on micro-expressions, tones of voice, subtle changes in others' behavior. This happens because they've suffered enough to develop constant emotional vigilance. It's as if they live in a state of alert, always attentive, always analyzing, always preventing the next hurt. And this emotional hypervigilance is exhausting, deeply exhausting. But they can't switch off. It's an emotional habit that has become a second instinct. What almost no one realizes is the deep-seated fear of being a burden. People with emotional detachment avoid showing pain because they think it will bother others. They avoid asking for help because they think they will be rejected. They avoid opening up because they believe no one could handle their truths. So they swallow everything. They swallow tears, feelings, doubts, longing. They believe that silence is safer than vulnerability. And in this process, they learn to live hidden within themselves, not for lack of emotion, but for an excess of it. And perhaps the most invisible part is this. Deep down, these people want connection. They want affection. They want someone who sees beyond the walls. But they don't know how to invite someone in. Their hearts seem like a locked house, but full of light inside. Except the door locks, the key disappears, their hand trembles, and the person thinks, what if it doesn't work out? This simple thought paralyzes everything. That's why, even desiring closeness, they remain distant. Not because they don't want to love, but because they don't. They want to suffer. The consequences of this emotional detachment don't appear all at once. They emerge gradually, in small voids that accumulate within the person. First comes the feeling that nothing excites them anymore. Then, the difficulty in trusting. And before they know it, the person is already living half a life. They smile, but don't feel. They are present, but disconnected. They seek peace, but find loneliness. This feeling grows silently, like a shadow that slowly stretches out. And when someone asks if everything is all right, they no longer know how to answer what they truly feel. In relationships, the impact is profound. Emotionally detached people attract partners who mistake silence for disinterest, and that hurts even more. They can't explain that the problem isn't the other person, it's the fear within them. So they distance themselves before anyone gets too close. They create barriers, avoid deep conversations, and shy away from displays of affection. Even when they want to stay, they end up leaving. This invisible emotional absence creates constant misunderstandings, and many relationships end before they even begin. Not for lack of love, but for an excessive fear. In terms of self-esteem, the effect is silent and cruel. The person begins to believe that feeling deeply is wrong, that being vulnerable is dangerous, that showing fragility is failure. Thus, they create an image of themselves based on self-defense, not on truth. Over time, they begin to wonder if they are too cold, too broken, or incapable of loving. These beliefs erode self-confidence, dull the sparkle in their eyes, and create a deep insecurity. An insecurity that doesn't show on the outside but grows inside like a hidden crack. In decision-making, emotional detachment leads a person to always choose the safest and least genuine path. They avoid risks, avoid change, avoid involvement. They remain trapped in routines that don't hurt but also don't heal. They reject emotional opportunities. They abandon possibilities before exploring them. They choose lukewarm relationships to avoid burns. They live protecting themselves so much that they miss out on experiences that could transform them. It's a controlled life, but a limited one. And this limitation weighs heavily over time. In the future, emotional detachment creates a type of loneliness that doesn't depend on the presence of people, but on the absence of commitment. A person can have friends, family, work, routine, and still feel an emptiness that's difficult to name. Because what's missing isn't company, it's connection. What's missing is that feeling of being seen, heard, understood. What's missing is the sense of emotional security that allows one to flourish. And without that security, the future always seems distant, always insecure, always too cold to approach. And the most profound consequence is this: the heart gets used to surviving without allowing itself to live. And this hardens the soul. It takes away the lightness of the days. It slowly extinguishes the capacity to feel genuine joy. The person loses the notion of their own emotional value, believing that it is easier to live alone than to risk getting hurt again. But this type of protection comes at a high price. A price paid with silence, with distance, with nights that are too long. A price that, deep down, nobody really wants to pay. The first psychological turning point is understanding that you are not cold. You are not detached by nature. You haven't lost the capacity to feel. What happened was simple and profoundly human. You protected yourself. You did what you needed to do to continue existing when the world hurt you. This is not weakness. This is emotional survival. And realizing this takes an enormous weight off your shoulders. Because you are not broken. You are tired, hurt, And when the pain is great, the defense becomes great too. No one should blame themselves for trying to survive. The second turning point is realizing that emotional detachment isn't your identity. It's a response. A response that worked in the past, but perhaps doesn't work anymore today. The mind learns to defend itself, but it can also learn to open up. Nothing within you is definitive. Nothing is permanent. Emotionality isn't dead. It's dormant. And little by little, with gentleness and patience, it can awaken again. It's not a matter of forcing feelings. It's a matter of relearning to trust, a little at a time. Small steps, small openings, small permissions. The third turning point is understanding that vulnerability isn't an absolute risk. You don't need to open your whole heart all at once. You don't need to give everything away. You don't need to expose yourself completely. You just need to take one more step than you did yesterday. That alone is healing. Emotional detachment doesn't dissolve quickly. It dissolves with presence. You don't need to be someone new. You just need to become whole again. And that begins when you acknowledge your own pain without punishing yourself for it. Healing is gentle. It's not noisy. It's intimate, slow, and honest. The fourth turning point is realizing that you don't have to face everything alone. Part of the emotional detachment came from the belief that no one would be there to help. But now you're an adult. Now you can choose who stays, who welcomes you, who sees you. You can create bonds that didn't exist before. And maybe it will feel strange at first. Maybe it will seem insecure. Maybe it will seem dangerous. But secure connections exist. True affection exists. People who stay exist. And each new, reliable presence breaks a little of the ice you've carried for so many years. The fifth turning point is understanding that feeling doesn't destroy you. What destroyed you was feeling alone, feeling without support, feeling without security. Therefore, when life invites you to open up again, remember, now you are aware. Now you know what hurt you, and that gives you the strength not to repeat patterns. Feeling is part of life. It's not a flaw. It's not weakness. And it doesn't have to be an attack on your heart. You can moderate it, you can observe, you can choose, you can pause. Control isn't about not feeling, it's about feeling with maturity. And the final twist is this. You no longer need to hide behind armor. Defense brought you this far, but it's surrender, even a small amount, that takes you forward. Life doesn't ask you to trust blindly. It only asks that you don't abandon yourself. You are not condemned to emptiness. You are not trapped in the past. You are not frozen forever. Your heart still knows how to love. It still knows how to feel. It still knows how to bloom. It just needs you to allow it. A little. A moment. A gesture. And that small gesture can be all it takes. The beginning of everything. In the end, it all comes down to this. You haven't stopped feeling. You've just protected yourself for too long. And that protection became a habit. It became routine. It became a shield. But it doesn't have to remain your prison. Life still holds safe spaces even if you've forgotten what it feels like to be welcomed. And little by little, without rushing, you can approach that place again. It's not about being strong, nor about being perfect. It's about being honest with yourself, recognizing that you deserve to feel and deserve to be felt by someone. Your heart isn't closed. It's just waiting for a home where it can rest. Perhaps you're tired of trying to explain who you are. Perhaps you're tired of carrying such a heavy silence. But there's something in you that has never gone away. The desire to be truly seen. To be understood without needing to justify yourself. To have at least one place in the world where you can take off your armor without fear. And this search is not weakness. It's humanity. It's courage. It's the most beautiful part of you. Even if the world has hardened you, you still hold a light that no one has been able to extinguish. And that light deserves space. The truth is, no one lives fully when they spend their entire life defending themselves. Too much protection leads to loneliness. And too much loneliness leads to self-forgetfulness. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can start slowly, like opening a window in the morning just a little to let in some light. You can choose to trust a single person, a single gesture, a single moment. That's how ice melts, not with intense heat but with constant warmth. And you have that warmth inside you, even if you don't think so. The world may have hurt you, but it can also heal you. Not everyone, not just anyone, but the right people exist. Gentle presences exist. Secure relationships exist. And you have the right to experience this, even if you're afraid, even if the past has left its mark, even if your heart trembled in past attempts, you can still try again. Because love is not a threat when there is respect, and surrender is not a danger when there is care. You deserve this experience. And if no one told you today, I'll tell you now. You are not alone. You are not broken. And you are not condemned to live distant from your own heart. Your story can still change. Your path can still become smoother. You can still feel something beautiful. And perhaps the simple fact of being here listening to this is already a step, a small step, but a true one. And sometimes healing begins exactly like this, with a new awareness, with a little courage, with a silent desire to be lighter. If this video resonated with you at any point, take a moment to breathe and let this reflection linger in your heart. And if you want to continue receiving content that comforts you in this way, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and activate the notification bell. Sometimes all we need is the right word at the right time. And I want to be here to walk with you. Until the next video.